Okay, welcome to our Board of Directors meeting for November, Natomas Charter School. Ziba, would you like to take roll?
Sure. Karen Harding Davis. I thought I saw her.
Okay, welcome to our Board of Directors meeting.
Maybe not. Sean King. Karen Harding Davis. I'm not hearing Sean King, and there's a delay. It sounds like happening on my side.
Yeah, you just use the video. It's the video playing in the background, Ziba, from when you launch the live feed.
Gina Lay.
I'm here.
Maria Mejorado.
Here.
Well done.
One moment. Gina Lay.
And
Maria Mejorado.
and
Well done.
Okay, I think we fixed it. I'm going to start over if you don't mind. I'm sorry. Karen Harding Davis. Perfect. Sean King. Gina Lay, I see you. Hi, Gina.
Hi.
Maria Mejorado.
Here.
Preeti Merchant.
Here.
Jennifer Morgan.
Here.
Ashante Norton.
Here.
Our advisor, Jonathan Kaur. Student liaisons, Gavin.
Hiya.
Hey, Gavin.
Gavin.
Max.
Hi.
Hi,
Hi,
Max.
Max.
Ali.
Hello.
Hi, Allie.
Hi.
Okay,
Care of roll.
what's up?
I said that takes care of roll call.
Oh, yes, it does. Thank you very much. Moving on, hearing of the public for items on the closed session agenda. Anyone? Okay, with that, I think we can adjourn to closed session at 5:31. We'll reconvene at 6:15.
Thank you. Jennifer, you need to pop into the closed session item or closed
Yep.
session calendar. Okay, perfect.
Yep, thank you. I'm trying to get out of this one.
Okay.
Looks like everybody's back. We can reconvene to open session. There was no action taken during closed session. Okay, moving on. Student reports. Gavin from VLA, can you start us off?
Oh yeah, give me a second here. All right, so you guys can hear me, right? Just gotta make sure.
Yep.
Perfect. Okay, so this month VLA has, or I should say last month in October, VLA has done a few things. One of those being Spirit Week. For the entire week, what we did is we had different lunch game events where we played games such as Pictionary, or we played Pictionary, and we did other fun games, and we also dressed up for each day where we had different days such as class color day, formal wear day, pajama day, and a costume day. And what we would do to record these, because there was a point system for each grade level, what would we do to record these points for making sure you wore the actual outfit was you posted your outfit on Flipgrid and everything. You came to your classes in your different attires. And one other thing we did for Spirit Week was we did week-long events where we did a scavenger hunt, and we had a Minecraft build-off where the server was hosted by one of our VLA students, Angelo, and it was I think the build-off was the most fun part for everyone because, you know, it's Minecraft and everything, and everyone had a lot of fun doing the build-off against other grades. And then recently, we started to introduce learning hubs to help students in need with their work. The way learning hubs work is a select few students will come to school, mainly those who need help, will come to campus once a week to get help from teachers and staff. People there work as a group and plan out their work they're going to do for that day and for the rest of the week. Starting on the week of November 9th, we are expanding the learning hubs to 2 cohorts with students coming to campus either on Tuesday or Thursday for half a day. We're being sure to follow all public health guidelines when students are on campus. Finally, we had our Vla Mock Election where students got to see different candidates / propositions, through commercial ads, websites, and speeches. And we gave out those speeches on November 2nd. And overall, we done quite a bit during October, and we're just during this time of this pandemic, we're just trying to make students as close as possible through distance learning. And that's it.
Great. Thanks, Gavin.
Thank you.
Max, leading edge update.
Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
In the past month, academically, we have had many great projects going on, such as like a project about certain events in humanities, and we've had multiple tests in ELA and STEM. And in the past month and this week, we've had a lot of special days or like days off from and on 10/28 we had our drive-by picture day, which was a new experience to have our pictures taken during this epidemic. And from 10/26 to 10/29 we had our virtual Spirit Weekend rally, and we had days like Orange and Black Day, Crazy Hair Day, Costume Day, and Virtual Rally Day. And to tally up points for people, we had the students post their spirit on a Flipgrid. And on one of those days, we had a virtual rally day, which was a new experience to us. And it was pretty cool because we had teachers talk and the whole school was in a Zoom call. And lastly, to keep sixth graders going good, web leaders have been checking in on them to make sure they're doing good during these crazy times.
Excellent. Thanks, Max. And last but not least, Ali for PFAA.
All right, thank you. There's plenty of things at PFA right now. PFA has released their first teacher tournament. It's releasing tomorrow. It's a video that we filmed with various teachers from different departments, just so that students are able to see them in different lights. That's releasing tomorrow. We've had lots of publicity for it. I'm sure lots of the staff know about it based on our posts. We got lots of comments, so we're excited to be able to bring the students a little bit closer with this. You'll be able to see that tomorrow. It'll be out on most platforms. The senior class mock elections, they concluded recently with the Democratic Party winning. Our anonymous virtual school play was from the 29th to the 31st. That was really great, and that was a game changer for the way that we are going to really present ourselves and what we're going to do forward in PFA and a lot of the activities that we're going to choose to pursue. I feel like that was a very founding event in that sense. And many after-school groups are trying to see who want to return for a lot of activities for the future and when we're on distance learning. I know that dance company and vocal ensemble are going to start soon and going over a lot of their activities that they're trying to pursue. So we're trying to get around the barrier of distance learning, of course. ASB Student Spotlight has continued. We've gotten lots of great art from so many different students, and it's really helpful because artists during this time really have trouble getting out there towards the entire school. And I feel like having them shown through our ASB platform is very helpful to them. Return of PFA Link Crew. After a really short hiatus, Link Crew is finally back with Miss Barr in charge of that. So we've had one meeting because, of course, we've had minimum days and Veterans Day tomorrow, but we're still staying in contact with our Linkies, and we are going to continue to plan lots of different events for them. So I'm very excited. And picture days are this week as well for many, if not all of the students this week, just at different times. So yeah, and the clubs are continuing to meet. They're finding new and really creative ways to bring more people together. There's podcasts, there's drive-throughs, there's many different speakers and activities. So I guess the main thing to take away from this is that students are adapting to distance learning. You know, they're finding new ways to get around issues that were once a really big wall. So that's very, very fortunate to hear. And I'm very happy that all my fellow students are able to pursue a lot of the things that they want to pursue. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. And thank you to all three of you for your presentations. Unless you'd like to stay, you're more than welcome to stay. You can go on to do your homework, clean your room, listen to your parents, do all those things. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, let's see, moving on to, let's see, hearing of the public comments for items not on the agenda.
We received none.
None? Okay, thank you. How about for items on the agenda, hearing of the public?
Also received none.
Excellent, thank you. So we will move on to approve the agenda from last month's meeting. Any questions there? Okay, can I have a motion to approve the agenda from last month's meeting?
This month's meeting, Ms. Morgan.
Excuse me. Oh, this month, I'm sorry, this month's meeting.
The current agenda, yes.
Yep, I was looking at the consent items. So yes, the current agenda.
I motion to approve.
Okay, that was Preeti. May I have a second?
I'll second. It's Ashante.
Thank you. Okay, roll call vote. Karen Harding Davis. Did Sean King join? I believe he did.
Yes,
I believe did, yes.
Okay.
approved. Approved.
Okay, thank you. Gina,
Yes, ma'am, I approve.
Maria,
Yes.
Preeti,
Yes.
a yes from me, and Ashante.
Yes.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, now moving on. Section J, the consent items. This is where we're approving personnel changes, board meeting minutes from last month, and then some revised job descriptions. Unless there are any questions, I'll ask for a motion to approve the consent items as a group.
I so move.
Okay, thank you, Maria. Second?
I second.
Okay, thank you, Preeti.
You're welcome.
Roll call vote again. Sean King,
Yes, approved.
thank you. Gina,
Yes, ma'am.
Maria,
Yes.
Preeti,
Yes.
a yes from me, and Ashante.
Yes.
Okay. Moving along, we have an action item for the school calendar. Dr. Wood?
So in your packet is the school calendar for the 21-22 school year, or as I like to think about it, when everything will be better. And so we made this school calendar with a normal school year in mind. And when you look at the calendar, I know Ziva's getting there. You'll find that we have basically kind of the pattern that we normally follow with school starting the second week in August. We have our fall break the first week in October, and Thanksgiving break when it normally occurs, 2 weeks at winter break. We have a little bit of an extended weekend in February. Those actually give us the February dates along with the March 18th date, give us a little bit of flexibility should we have something like a wildfire smoke day or others, kind of our equivalent of a snow day, and we need to flex the calendar. That gives us some flexibility there. Then we have our week and a half spring break, followed by Memorial Day, and then we end on Friday, June 10th. Any questions about the calendar?
Okay, if there are no questions, I will ask for a motion to approve the 2021-22 school calendar.
Also move.
I'm sorry, was that Ashante?
Yes.
Okay, how about a second?
I'll second, Jennifer.
Thank you, Maria. Moving on to roll call vote, Sean King,
Yes. Approve.
Gina Lay,
Yes.
Maria Mejarado,
Yes.
Preeti Merchant,
Yes.
Jennifer Morgan, yes. Ashante,
Yes.
Norton, okay. All right, moving along. Section L, discussion information, Dr. Wood with an enrollment update.
So in your packet tonight, you see our current enrollment numbers, or I should say as of October 30th. The one little just small clarification I wanted to provide is for Leading Edge. Leading Edge is actually full. You know, in the course of this document being created, we had some students leave and then we filled their spots. But other than that, all of the numbers are pretty much the same. And so you can see we have full enrollment. As we've talked about in previous board meetings, our funding is a little different this year, but we're still tracking our enrollment numbers to make sure we're maintaining full enrollment. And we have full enrollment with waiting lists. And we use this data also as we start thinking about application season moving forward. Any questions about the enrollment?
Okay, so we have, next up is the facilities update.
So this is our quarterly facilities update. You know, it's a little less exciting than our quarterly updates of the past where we were building something, but you know, we have our 3 campuses, Black Rock, Gloucester Way, and Pact. So first of all, at all 3 campuses, we've really been focused on health and safety prep for students and teachers returning. So things like signage, plexiglass barriers, setting up, you know, desks so that they're 6 feet apart. We have Natomas unified and made sure that the MERV 13 HEPA filters were installed in all of our HVAC systems. And then just making sure we have all of the technology set up for students to return. So, you know, LCD projectors working. They're doing some work on the networking equipment at Star Academy where it's been laggy in a couple buildings. Here on the Black Rock campus, if you weren't aware, we were a voting center for Sacramento County elections Saturday, October 31st through Tuesday, November 2nd. And then the track is going to be getting repaired during the month of November. You know, with students not being on it, gophers and squirrels have taken it over. Actually, I walked out there today and like a dozen squirrels went running. So they've really made home of the track. So Francisco's actually bringing out a tractor and is going to be working up the track and making sure it's level and ready to go for kids returning. And then at Pact, we are officially out of our old building and officially fully in our new building. And so, you know, the lease is done. We've turned off Sonatrol at the old building, all of the things that happen when you move from one residence to another. And, you know, we're settling into our new campus. You know, we've had some HVAC fun moments, you know, which is part of being in a new building. Our elevator also had a little moment where it decided it was going to stop working, but we've had warranty crews out replacing and fixing all of that. So very minor things. And then over at Star Academy, things are pretty much settled in. Kind of maybe the most exciting thing is as part of getting ready for students to return to campus, we're replacing the water fountains with water bottle refill stations. We didn't actually have those on that campus. We only had them at Pact and here on Black Rock campus. So we're putting those in place because students can use those. They can't use the water fountain portion where you put your mouth next to it, but you can use the water bottle refill station. And we're really focusing on having all of the students bring their own water bottles so that we have that for when we come back on campus.
Excellent. Do we need to clarify there was no one in the elevator when it decided not to work?
Yeah, it just decided, there was actually no one in it. They were out of it. It just decided, I'm not really going up and down there anymore.
Well, if it's going to do that, we're glad no one was in it.
Yep.
Let's see, next item, board meeting format. Don't go anywhere, Joe, because these are all you.
Yep. So this one actually, it was something that Ashante brought up at our last board meeting about coming back to talk a little bit about doing in-person board meetings when students return. So I'm actually going to share with you all what Ziba and I are thinking this might look like, and then we'd love to get your guys' feedback on it. So when I think when students return to campus, it makes a lot of sense for the board to start having in-person board meetings again. We still will have the governor's executive order in place, and I imagine it's going to remain in place at least for the rest of this school year. But what we could do is have it in the library media center or a classroom that would allow for physical distancing between the board members. And we probably would only have 2 staff members there. It'd be me and Ziba, and everyone else would attend remotely. That way we can make sure we have physical distancing. It wouldn't be open to members of the public. Members of the public would still attend our meetings remotely. And what we're thinking is that each of you would have a Chromebook or a computer in front of you. We would still all be on Zoom like we currently are on, but similar to a more traditional board where they have like a dais where you have to hit the little microphone button to speak. You guys would basically speak by clicking the Zoom button. And then that way we can still make sure there's a live broadcast and there's a recording. We've actually gotten a lot of positive feedback about the virtual board meetings. Staff members telling us they really appreciate it being via Zoom so they can, be a part of the meeting virtually, even though they may be from home. And then both staff members and families sharing how much they appreciate having the recordings posted to YouTube after the fact. So we're trying to keep those things in place while we come back to campus and do in-person board meetings. So that's what Ziba and I are thinking about. Like I said, we'd love to get your guys' thoughts and feedback on that.
That sounds good to me. I like the idea of setting up and offering both. I think that's great.
I'm fine with it too. Sounds good.
Does it make sense to tie it to like when kids come back? So assuming kids come back in January, we would do our January board meeting. If something changed and they couldn't come back till February, we would do our February board meeting that way. Does that timeline make sense to you all?
That's to me. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Then that is what we will plan for.
Excellent.
I just miss seeing you guys in person.
Definitely.
I agree. It would be nice to be all back together. So.
Okay, COVID-19 update, Dr. Wood.
All right, so I'm actually going to have Ziba unshare so I can share my slides. We're going to do a little update of where we're at on COVID-19 preparations and rollouts. So let me make sure I'm pulling up the right thing here. One moment. Wait. One moment. Sometimes Zoom decides it's going to do funny things. There we go. All right. So do you guys see a COVID-19 update in front of you all?
Yes.
All right. So then we got the right thing being shared. So, so basically our goal tonight is really just to provide an update of where we're at on getting ready for kids to come back to campus. So we've talked about, we're moving our way through our stages. We're kind of at stage 2.5 where we have some students coming to class right now or coming to campus right now, and we're getting ready for hybrid learning. You all as a board set our return date of January 4th. So we're planning with that timeline in mind. As we talked about at last month's board meeting, we're really planning with these 3 domains in mind: safety, consistency, and stability for our students. So in terms of safety, wanted to give everyone an update as to where we're at with the public health information. So if you look at this table on the left, you can see that when we went to the color-coded process earlier in September, as a county, we started in purple, then we went to red. Oh, I hate when my mouse does this. We went to red, and then we started making progress towards orange, which was really great news. Well, at last Tuesday's update was the first time Sacramento County went back to purple for the number of cases per 100,000 residents. If tomorrow is the next data release, and if we continue purple, then the county may actually revert back to purple. And that actually is going to create a little bit of a challenge for us. So first, why is this happening? Previously, all of the changes in case rates were largely due to outbreaks at long-term care facilities. So think nursing homes or other care facilities. More recently, though, the county has seen a pretty significant uptick in private gatherings. And so we really need everyone in the community to come together and kind of nip the private gatherings in the bud, or if you're going to have private gatherings, making sure they're outdoors, socially distanced with masks on. And really, these numbers are completely dependent at this point on, what the community is going to do. So how does this impact school reopenings? Well, just like businesses, when we as a county revert back to purple, businesses can't be as open as they were before. Schools have a similar sort of thing going on. So if your school was not already opened, so we're not currently opened, right? We cannot open middle or high school at all if we're in the purple zone. We could look at a waiver process for our elementary campus, Star Academy. We've talked about that before as a board. Generally, the community consisting of staff members and families were not interested in a waiver at that time. I'll probably do some revisiting that, at least with the Star Academy staff, and kind of see where we're at. But at this point, we're not planning on moving forward with the waiver process. We can still have cohorts of students on campus. So our distance learning hubs that we've talked about, we can still continue those. We can also even expand those. So, as we've been hiring distance learning facilitators, one of the plans is to continue to expand the distance learning hubs with those new staff members. So we can still work on that. And as I mentioned, schools that are already open can stay open. So it's a little counterintuitive with the being able to stay open. And that's definitely been some feedback that I've provided to public health about these guidelines. I think they need to be revisited. So we'll see. I think as a board, the other question you might have is, what are other districts going to do? And so at this point, Natomas Unified will not open at all under purple or widespread, and that's elementary through high school. They actually also have a plan that as a district, if the county goes back to purple, let's say they open, and the county goes back to purple for 3 consecutive weeks, the whole district is going to revert to distance learning. Westlake and NP3 are looking at a similar model. We're actually going to have some more conversations about this tomorrow as a charter leader group. And at this point, at least NP3 is not planning on applying for an elementary waiver. So take all of that to really mean that as long as we're purple, schools in Natomas are probably not going to be opening to students. And I think maybe someone was going to ask a question and I interrupted them. Was there a question that was from the board? If not, that's fine. Okay, moving forward. So the other thing that we've been working on is a COVID-19 dashboard. So on our website, we actually have a new embedded web page that is actually tracking the number of cases, both confirmed cases and anyone that's had to quarantine on our campus. And our goal with this is to really make our COVID-19 experience here on campus as transparent as possible. It also helps us meet some legal notification requirements. There's a new law that hasn't been enacted. It starts in January. We were already planning for this, but all employers have to make sure that they notify their staff members anytime there's a COVID-19 case on campus. So we're going to be doing our formal notifications that we've already talked about, letters, emails, phone calls home, that sort of thing. But we've created this dashboard as well, just to track what's happening on our campus. We got some updated guidance from Sacramento County Public Health. The biggest thing for us, especially for PFAA, is that in this new guidance, we actually can have theater, choir, and orchestra. We weren't able to have that before. It has to be done outdoors, have to be 6 feet apart, have to be wearing masks. The one thing that is still not permitted, that's a little bit of a challenge for PFAA, is band. So wind instruments are not permitted. This actually conflicts with the state guidance. And so we're kind of hoping Sacramento County resolves that. In the meantime, though, there are materials that we need to even be in alignment with the state guidance. So there's basically, it's called a bell cover, but it's like a mask for a wind instrument. We need those types of materials. So we're going ahead and purchasing all of that with the expectation that at some point in time, the Sacramento County guidance will align with the state guidance. We've been doing staff training and taking inventory of all of our materials and making sure we need more. This is Mrs. Novello from Leading Edge. You can see her classroom is all set up. So, the materials that Francisco and the facilities team have been deploying, like hand sanitizer, the sanitizer cleaning materials, making sure we have enough masks and shields, Addie and the safety team have been doing training with all of the academies. And also as part of that training, having employees tell us, oh, wait, we didn't think about this, and helping us brainstorm some solutions for those one-off things we didn't think through. Also doing walkthroughs. If you come visit campus, you'll notice we have all sorts of new signs hanging up, about reminding people to wear their masks and stay physically distanced. And then we're working on plans for training the students. So whenever we can open, the goal is to have middle and high school students come for what we're calling early hybrid days, where they're going to come in cohorts by grade level and rotate through the classrooms to A, know where their classrooms are, and B, know the protocols for how you come into the classroom and how you exit the classroom in terms of cleaning and that sort of stuff. And at Star Academy, it'll be part of our first day of school activities when kids can come back. The teachers are really working on hybrid planning. This is our 5th grade team over at Star Academy. And they, like all of the other teachers, have been really working with the teaching and learning department on modeling hybrid lessons, kind of figuring out, okay, like at Star Academy, who's the distance learning teacher and the hybrid teacher, and what's that work gonna look like? We're working with teachers on helping us identify any additional materials they need, whether it's microphones or extra books or that sort of thing. And we're in the process of hiring our distance learning facilitators. I think we're in the process of offering about 6 to 8 candidates that in our first round of interviews, and we've gotten more applications since. So we're doing another round of interviews later this week. And then we've been doing community meetings. So for the 3 academies, Star, Leading Edge, and PFAA, we did community meetings the last couple of weeks just to talk about the difference of hybrid versus extended distance learning to help parents really make that choice. And we launched surveys last week, getting people to sign up. And then based on signups, now we're trying to figure out, how we're going to assign teachers for hybrid versus extended distance learning, doing master schedule adjustments potentially at PFA, and looking for opportunities to balance out the cohorts. And really, as we're starting to schedule kids, we're really starting with our highest need students in mind, like our special ed and EL students, and thinking about, are there ways that they can come to campus 4 days a week rather than just the 2 days a week? Our goal is to notify all families by December 7th as to what we have planned for January 4th in terms of you're in cohort A or you're in cohort B, confirming their distance learning, that sort of thing. And I thought you guys might be curious, like what people are signing up for. So this is the latest data as of 3 o'clock this afternoon. So the graph over to the right just kind of shows by academy, hybrid signups versus distance learning signups versus no response. So you can see Star Academy actually has the highest percentage of families wanting to do distance learning, around 40%. And PFAA has the smallest amount wanting to do distance learning at 26%. And we're looking about 60% of our students coming to campus. And so we're going to be making some decisions around that. And then the no response, the staff's actually working on calling those families this week to kind of find out where they're at. And then in terms of cohorts, as you can see here, cohort A is quite popular. Cohort B, not so much. And we have some families that have kind of said no preference, assign us to whatever, so they'll probably end up in cohort B. But one of the things each of the coordinators and their staff will be doing is looking at the cohorts and probably doing some balancing. Really, we can have no more than 50% of the students in a cohort, and you can see all 3 are over 50%. So we'll probably have to move some people around. And we've been very clear with families that the sign-up process is really, our goal first and foremost is to keep siblings together and to try to honor families' requests to the greatest extent possible. But we may have to do a little bit of moving things around.
Hey, Joe, can you give me the abridged version of cohort A versus B?
A attends school Monday, Tuesday. B attends school Thursday, Friday.
Huh, okay. Thank you.
I think some people are using my son's logic, which was, I want to be an A because then I'm done with school on Tuesday afternoon. And then we had to have a little explanation about, no, there's still 3 days of distance learning you have to do. It's
when
not
you're done,
Fortnite and YouTube Tuesday afternoon. That's not how this works. So,
when you're done with Michael, I need you to come over and do the same speech at my house, please.
yeah. What my son ended up doing, he ended up going with cohort B after we clarified that at school all week. And his logic was that actually that's where his friends would be. So they tried to coordinate as a friend group a little bit. And there's been other families that have been doing that as well. So for any families watching at home, if you're anxious about not getting in cohort A, you could call the office and let us know you really want cohort B, and we could probably guarantee that for you.
I think cohort B is where it's at here.
It is. I think it really is too. I told Michael, you can do pajamas and flip-flops on Monday and Tuesday, and then you only have to get dressed in real school clothes on Thursday and Friday. It's perfect. Anyway, so that's where we're at on signups. And so what are we, what's kind of the road ahead looking like here? So we kind of are planning with two minds at the moment. So first, we're still keeping January 4th as our go live date. And so with that idea in mind, the teaching and learning departments working with all the academies on modeling lessons, working with teachers, we're doing all sorts of employee training, making sure any remaining on-campus signage has been deployed. Like there's stickers that we're going to put on the ground. We haven't put those on the ground yet because we know it'll, with the rain and stuff, they'll kind of peel up. So we're waiting till we get closer to kids being on campus and then welcoming students to campus for those early hybrid days. So the left side is what we're hoping is going to happen. The right side, though, is our more realistic side and what we're all learning to live with in 2020 and COVID, planning for flexibility. So we're continuing to track the public health updates. I think we're all wondering, will the COVID numbers spike? Are we going to have a little countywide blip and then we're going to go back to red? I don't know. We're going to see what happens. And then what's the impact of Thanksgiving break or the Thanksgiving holiday? As we talked about at our October board meeting, at our December board meeting on the 14th, no matter what, we're planning on bringing you the latest public health numbers because we had talked about, if we saw a significant spike after Thanksgiving, we as a board may choose to delay the return to campus by 2 more weeks in wanting to kind of see if winter break is also going to have an impact. That decision may actually be somewhat taken out of our hands, depending on what happens here countywide. If the county is not red by Tuesday, December 15th, we probably cannot have kids return to campus on January 4th because remember the county has to be red for 2 consecutive weeks before you can start bringing kids back. So one of the things that we may be looking at doing is, this is what Natomas Unified has decided to do, and I think it makes some sense, is they're tying their ability, if they can't make the January 4th date like we have planned, the goal is to just do, I think in their case, they're planning on doing 3 weeks after the county goes red. And so, we legally have to do 2 weeks. They're kind of adding another week to have a little bit of flexibility. But that way it gives families time to know, okay, it's not January 4th, but hey, we went red on Tuesday, January 5th. So start planning for the 19th being the time that we're gonna all come back to school. So we'll probably do something similar to that. And then the other piece that we're planning for is state testing is still a go. So we're still planning on state testing for the 2021 administration. Yesterday, the state board, or not yesterday, on Friday, the State Board of Education approved a short form blueprint. We're all thinking what that's going to mean is that the CASP assessment is going to take about half the amount of time that it normally takes, which is good. I think though we're all still wondering, are you going to be able to take it remotely? We haven't heard, or do kids have to come to school? Because I am a little apprehensive about if we can't do it remotely, I don't think we're going to hit the 95% participation rate that we're supposed to be hitting. And I mean, all the 25 to 30% of families that are planning on distance learning, most of them are doing it for health and safety reasons. And I don't think they're going to send their kids to school just to take a computerized assessment. So Laura is working with the assessment folks here regionally, and we're going to try to get some more information about, what exactly to plan for. But we do expect them to be shorter assessments and us to still have them in place. All right, so with that, questions that I can answer for the board?
Joe, I have a question.
Sure.
The early hybrid welcoming, is that going to be that first week of January?
So it is, assuming if we can come back on January 4th, we currently have that planned for PFAA the week of December 7th and for Leading Edge the week of December 14th.
Okay.
If we can't come back on January 4th, though, if we're still purple, we actually can't bring kids back for those early hybrid days. So we would actually do that as part of that 2-week, coming back process. Because we do want every kid to be able to set foot on campus and know where their classes are and know what the classroom protocols are. And honestly, just be able to meet their teachers. If you think about our 6th graders and our 9th graders, some of them have never set foot on our campus ever. And, we want them to be able to have that experience in the most comfortable way possible, while also getting ready for students to come back to campus.
Cool. My second question is, you mentioned the CASP test offering a shorter version. Is there any concern about disadvantaging kids? I know time-wise and taking the test on, virtually is, it's horrendous. But I'm just wondering if a shorter version, does that raise any questions about disadvantaging kids? Because the answers, I mean, their scores may go down because there's fewer questions to
Yeah.
base it on. I don't know. It's just something I wonder about.
So that definitely was a conversation at the state board meeting, and what the state board directed CDE to do with ETS, who's the test vendor, is to work with the psychometricians, the test, that's the fancy word for the test creators, to really make sure it's still a statistically valid assessment and is still statistically representative of what the students would normally take. There's actually some conversation that this short form test may just continue past COVID. Because we already were at a place where it was ridiculous. I mean, it's 4 hours of testing easy for English, and then another 4 hours of testing easy for math.
Right.
And that's for the average kid. I mean, there were some kids that took even longer because it is an untimed test. And so we'll see. We'll see.
Might be, good. Great. Thank you.
Have there been any comments about, if they're administering the test virtually, about the integrity of the results?
Absolutely. And so that's one of the, I know trying to just do our English learner assessment virtually has been really a challenge. And I'm kind of worried that we're going to end up in the same sort of place with this CASP assessment, and that the expectation is going to be, all the kids come to school, which, assuming we can have kids come to school, I'm completely on board with every kid coming to school. But I know there are a percentage of families, I'm going to guess greater than 5%, that don't feel comfortable with their children coming to school to take the assessment. And I do worry because, one, as a public school, and then secondly, as a charter school, the expectation is that we have a 95% participation rate. And if we don't, we can actually be dinged on some of our metrics on the dashboard in the future. And so this is actually going to be some feedback for my favorite State Board of Education representative that I know well, is to share with Dr. Sun that, hey, how are we going to address this? Because this is going to be quite challenging, for all schools in the state, but certainly for charter schools where your students' ability to do well on the CASP test is connected to your ability to renew your charter down the road.
Excellent. Any more questions? Okay. Review the governance handbook. I'll give you all one question as to who's responsible for this one. Dr. Wood.
So the board governance handbook. So this is actually something that we should be doing annually. Ziba and I set up a schedule where we're purposely doing this in November each year. And the idea is that, typically October is the month where our new board members join our board and any exiting board members leave. So November is a good month to go over the board governance handbook. So in your packet and emailed to you separately is a copy of the handbook that we created as a governance team with Walt Handline back in, I believe it was April 2019 is when we created it. And if for those of you that were part of the board at the time, we created this as part of the process of Ting and Charlie retiring and the board getting ready to sort of like take more governance responsibility of the school with the founders retiring. And so the purpose of the handbook is it's really a documentation of how you guys interact with one another. So the purpose of the conversation tonight is to really just go through the handbook and have a discussion as a board. And, Zeeb and I can answer any questions. And this is also an opportunity to talk about any maybe amendments or adjustments that we want to make to the handbook. And then we could bring it back at the December board meeting for formal approval by the board. And then that, becomes our handbook moving forward. So with that, I'm actually we're gonna kind of just go like page by page. And then as we're on each page, then you guys can, if you have any questions or statements or things you want to bring up or things you want to talk about, just stop Ziba and I so that you can make space for that. So this first page is really just talking about, what's the purpose of the board, right? Like what's the board stand for and what are our governance norms and how we function as a governance team, sorry. And then on page 3, it's really talking about the roles and responsibilities of the board. And as we talked about with Walt previously, it's really the role of the board to really focus on the big picture, really set the directions, provide support, and really, making sure that, the areas of concern are the safety of the school, the finances of the school, how our facilities are doing, general human resources, policy, something called judicial review, which is really about, if we have suspensions and expulsions related to students, or if we're terminating an employee and it's a contentious situation, you might have some roles and responsibilities there. Any questions on roles and responsibilities? Okay, so moving forward. So then we get into the governance protocols. So in the governance protocols, it really is talking about how you guys interact as a board with each other and with the public. So this particular page just talks a little bit about the expectations of the board in terms of how you receive information, maybe repeat information during a board meeting, remind others if you need to redirect or report things to me. Any questions about the protocol starting here on page 4? All right, moving forward then, Ziba. So then on page 5, it talks a little bit about, interacting with the academies and interacting with the community. And I think the big message here is really that, of course, the board is always welcome to campus. We're excited to have you in normal times when we can all come to campus. And letting the academy coordinators know when you're on campus, or letting me know when you're on campus, and we can actually, set up tours for you and that sort of thing as well. Then moving on to the next page. So on page 6, it talks a little bit about board meetings and the agenda. And in the second box, Ziva added in some suggested text that we might put in now that we've navigated COVID. When we came up with this in 2019, we never thought about having to navigate extended school closures and public health guidelines. So she added a statement here that in the event of school closures, we will hold all public meetings in accordance with local public health guidelines. So like we're doing right now via Zoom. Also in that same box, just above it, it says the regular public meeting will begin at 5:30 with closed session to follow. So if you guys remember, we had written in here that we would do open session first and closed session second. But then at the beginning of last school year, you guys had talked about moving closed session to the beginning because sometimes people were having trouble with traffic. If you work downtown, getting to Natomas by 5:30. So this just provided a little bit of a cushion. My question is, do we want to amend this to say that closed is going to be at the beginning and open session is going to be at the end, kind of like we've been doing the last few months?
I mean, don't we still start our public meeting at 5:30? And then we just happen to go into closed session after a couple of minutes?
Yeah, we do. And so, I mean, from a technical standpoint, we're totally meeting the language here. Don't get me wrong. But it was more like, do we want to put some clarity in that? Do we want to say that we're always going to start with, we open to close because we have to do quorum and take roll call and then move to closed, or, or we just leave the language the way that it is, completely fine.
I feel like we can leave it the way it is and afford ourselves some additional flexibility should we ever need it.
Okay.
But that's just my opinion. Anybody else?
I definitely like how we're doing it now, how it's structured, where we kind of handle our closed session business first instead of, I think we were doing it at the very end before, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And what we had talked to Walt a little bit about is, often closed session, I mean, it's when you're doing my evaluation, right? So it's one of the biggest decisions that you're having to make as a board. And it's probably not best to do it when we're all tired and hungry, try to do it more towards the front of the meeting than the end of the meeting. So
I'm glad you said it, Joe. Tired and hungry.
That's when we would have food together too. I mean, talk about really missing being together as a board.
Again, thank you for saying it. I didn't want to say it earlier for fear of, just looking for a free meal, but that's it.
All right, so any questions on this page? All right, moving on to the next page then. So this page starts to talk a little bit about the Brown Act. And I think, the biggest thing to remember here, which we've talked about in other meetings, is just that, when members of the public are making comment, the board can receive the comment. But aside from basically saying, Dr. Wood or school administration will follow up with you, there's not a whole lot else that we can do unless it's an agendized item. And related to that, remembering that email counts as a communication tool as well. So making sure, not using the reply all button. Or even as we talked about with Lisa Core last year when you guys did your Brown Act training, if you remember, we talked about how even social media can be an area where it can be, misconceived as dialogue if you guys are like all commenting on the same post sort of thing. So especially if it's about school related business, so just being intentional there. Next page, Ziba. So this just continues. This part's talking a little bit more about, the voting process and, abstaining when you need to abstain. Any questions here? All right, we'll go to the next page. So this one's talks a little bit about our policy process in that second box. So the first box is talking just a little about general deliberations, the idea of trying to keep them brief, but interacting as much as possible. And then the second is talking about our policy development process. So last year we really formally developed a process. And so Ziba's actually gone through and documented it here a little bit. So step one was, we received suggested policy updates from legal counsel. We review the language and develop a suggested policy for me and you all to review. And that any new policies are presented to the board as an action section of the agenda as a first reading, and then brought back to the board for approval the following month as a consent item. So that's what we've been doing. We're just formally documenting it there. And then the bottom is a little bit more about public participation related to the Brown Act. And then Ziba, you can go to the next page. And then the board's relationship with the executive director is on page 10. And continues on to page 11. And then the bottom of page 11 talks a little bit about when new board members come on, how we orient them to these protocols. And at least I know Maria and Gina, they've had the experience of coming on as new board members with me as executive director. And so what I've actually done as a result of this document is we have a binder that all of you have that has all of our core documents in it. And then when you're a new board member, what I'll actually do is sit down with you. We'll go through that document together, kind of talk about the highlights. And then at least for Maria, but I haven't been able to do this with Gina, we also do a tour of the school so you can see all the campuses and see what's happening in the classrooms and that sort of thing. All right. So any questions or other suggested edits that you see in here that you think we should revisit?
Hey, Joe, the bottom box, within 90 days, the study session of the whole board, is this considered our study session?
This is our study session right now,
Okay,
yeah.
great.
So this is why we have it at that meeting following when most of the board members are coming on.
Yeah.
All right, well, if nothing else to add, then we'll bring it back for formal approval in December with just the red edits that Ziba had put in there, kind of clarifying things that we've already been doing.
Excellent.
All right.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Wood. Next up is our presentation from Anita, our business office update.
Sorry about that. I muted myself. Can you see my screen?
Nope.
No. Okay. Let me go back again.
You had it shared and then it looks like you unshared it. So.
I did to unmute myself. Okay.
Here we go.
All right. Okay. So I wanted to start off with this quote that I recently came across. It says, an arrow can only be shot by pulling it backward. When life is dragging you back with difficulties, it means it's going to launch you into something great. So just focus and keep aiming. So originally, actually on our PD day for business office, we had Schools Insurance Authority come out and do a training for us on resilience and thriving. And it was basically us how to cope with stress and changes and things like that. And this was a quote from an unknown author on here. And it really resonated with us because of the challenges we faced this year on here. So as I go through this, I just wanted to flash this slide up to show just a reminder of what the business office does, the different areas that we cover. And there's a wide variety there. And this is our team. So our brave leaders and learners this year. So you have myself as the director. Kelly is the business and accounting manager. Leanne is our human resources analyst. Selma is fairly new to our team. She is our accounting technician and she pays all our bills and posts our deposits. Relina does all of our purchasing. And then we have Ziba as our, that assists with our admin assistants, executive assistant, I should say. So I wanted to kind of do a year in review and basically what went on in 2019-20 since we last met with you and gave a department update. So last year was our first year that we implemented an online timesheet system for our non-instructional staff. And so we implemented a system called Time Clock Plus for Natomas Charter School. And we also had to implement it for our Kairos, our client school as well. And that was all related to switching over to semi-monthly pay cycles for our non-instructional staff. So once we converted over, Natomas Charter School had still has 4 payrolls to run at this time. And then Kairos decided to convert all their staff at once. So we only had 2. We were happy for that. Also last year was the first year that we went live with our online leave tracking module that is connected to our finance system. And so this module with our finance system talks to Frontline, which is our formerly ASOP absence tracking system. So it works well and it helps us be more efficient when posting leaves for employees. We also, since we were able to get that up and running, rolled out our employee web portal, which is from our finance system. And so staff can go on there and look at their paycheck stubs, W-2s from the past, and look at their demographic information. We also focused a lot on cross-training, staff development, and team building. So, and we continue to build on the fish training that I did a couple of years ago on that. And all of our team building and staff development really incorporates the fish training ideology on there. And the other thing that we did with Ms. Ziba's help on there is Business Office got their intranet pages updated for staff. So that's our internal internet page for forms and internal documents that we just want our staff to share with our staff and not necessarily be out there on the website. And then also we went paperless for our paychecks and our direct deposit steps. So some of the challenges and opportunities I just flashed on there, COVID was pretty much the big thing for everybody. But as it relates to the business office, what we found is that we were not ready for remote working and stuff on here. So we had a plan to implement different modules and streamline efficiencies and stuff. But what we found was we were lacking the equipment that we could do when we had to shelter in place and things like that. Since then, we did get all of our equipment. We are adding additional points of access in a building N where the business office is housed for our internet connection, because as we move to these different modules and online processes, we are running pretty much 5 to 7 programs all at once. And so our current points of access are on the other side of the portable. So having them move to our side is going to be great. We have that as part of our E-rate bid that is currently being announced right now. But also it made us really look at implementing our plan faster and looking at efficiencies and things like that. So we feel that we are in good shape now, although the staff, we have been back working on site before fall break. And basically that was pretty much a staff preference, because that way they don't have to haul equipment back and forth and stuff too. But also we have offices and cubicle space for the physical distancing that we needed and stuff. So, and we were here all in summer, so that they really got used to the new protocols that needed to be in place on there. And then we were really focused on really welcoming back the rest of the staff when we saw live people on campus. It was great and stuff. So upcoming goals and objectives for this year is we're going to continue to focus on our team building and staff development. I am a very big proponent on staff development because things are always changing in the business office. We are almost done transitioning out Kairos. They got their own business office and we've been helping them. We've closed their books. We've provided all the auditors with all the testing and samples and documents that they needed. So I will just need to present their audit when it's done, and we will help them with their tax filing. And then they should be fully transitioned out. So we're excited about that. We're also started implementing an online requisitioning and PO routing system. So this is going to be great for our end users, our staff submitting requisitions, so we can get rid of some of the paper, and it'll be, you can set up proxies, and we don't have to worry about people being on vacation and things like that. So we'll keep the system moving as well. And then lastly, as far as systems goes, I wanted to talk to you about an HR central paperless system. So we've been demoing a lot of companies that provide these services and stuff, because with COVID, it was a real eye opener to be, especially with all of the hiring. We need to hire people even though we're distance learning, and we need to make sure that we get all the paperwork with them. Sometimes people didn't feel comfortable coming into the office to meet with Leanne, even though we could social distance and things like that. So we were really looking at first at an onboarding system. And then we started looking to say, you know, we really want to look at all electronic personnel files and things like that, and checking with our auditors. They're completely on board with that. So that is something that we are focusing on, and we hope to bring a recommendation to the board next month on that. We're going to continue to refine and reinforce our procedures. We're going to be revamping the Natomas Charter School Business Office website page to remove documents and things like that are really only for the staff, and make sure that we just have all of our compliance documents as the school for the business office on there, such as financial reports, audit reports, job descriptions, and salary schedules, I should say. And then lastly, we are moving towards semi-monthly payroll cycles for administrators and instructional staff starting next year. So we met with all of our admin and instructional staff already to talk to them about the switch. This will allow us to go down to the 2 payrolls and everybody will be on the same pay cycles. And we asked for early volunteers. And so we have about 20 teachers and administrators ready to make a switch in January when the new tax year comes. So it'll be aligned with the new tax tables and stuff. So we're really excited about that as well. And here is a picture of the team. And this was taken last Friday during our tropical day during Spirit Week. So you could see everybody there all dressed up. And I had my hands behind my back, so it looks like I have no arms, but I am there. So with that, any questions that you might have for me?
I want to give a big shout out to Anita and the business office. Taking the business office online and digital and paperless is far from easy, but they've really jumped in, with 2 feet and are trying to kind of figure out all the different things and how they can streamline and make their processes online.
Excellent. Thank you, Ziba. Excuse me. Ziba and your colleagues and Anita,
yes,
thank you.
Yes. Ziba is a part of our squad. So thank you very much.
Yes. Okay, moving on. Dr. Wood, we've missed you. So how about more comments for us? We haven't heard enough from you.
So the big news, well, there's a lot of big news, but applications for the 21-22 school year are going live on November 30th. So we have some fun stuff going on there. Next week, November 18th, Anita and I will be doing our annual financial update to Natomas Unified School District Board. So we do that once a year. Normally we do it in May, but because of COVID, it got delayed till November. So we'll be doing that. We have Veterans Day coming up next week, and then the following, or no, this week, gosh.
This week.
This week we have Veterans Day, and then in a little over a week, we have Thanksgiving break. And then the last thing, I wanted to let the board know that on October 30th at our Staff Development Day, each year at we used to be September, now October Staff Development Day, we recognize the employee who most exemplifies the 5 traits of an NCS professional. And this year it was Francesca Donato, who is our educational specialist over at Star Academy. So she actually got a nice little plaque and stuff. So anyway, just wanted to kind of share that with the board and give her a public shout out. I know sometimes she tunes into the board meeting, so she'll be surprised to hear that.
Congrats, Mrs. Donato. If you're here, even if you're not.
Yeah.
Okay, Board of Director comments. My esteemed colleagues, what say you? Don't everybody rush in at once. Everybody's cold, everybody's tired. Everybody's really glad we already took care of closed session at the early part of the meeting.
Excellent. Excellent. Yes.
Is that Sean?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes. Excellent.
Sean, how are your Cowboys doing?
Blow.
About as good as my 49ers, I'm afraid.
Yeah. 4-3 quarterback. 4-3. Yeah.
I won't say anything about my Chiefs yet.
Hey, quiet down, Chiefs fan. Are you still on the board? So we need to talk about that. I thought we had that question.
Oh.
She's a good Chiefs fan.
Hey, I have to root for my hometown team. Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Something about that. Okay, well, as far as Board of Director comments, I will just echo what we say every meeting, but I know this is extremely difficult times for everybody, and certainly our staff and leadership team, there's no exception. So thank you guys very much for your continued dedication and just awesome results. I don't sit in on any other school board meetings, but I would challenge any school to be as prepared and thorough as we have been. So thank you all very much. Anything else, or we can move on to future board agenda items?
Nothing new.
Excellent. Okay, well, if nobody objects, I will adjourn our meeting at 7:15 on the caveat that someone calls former Chair Wheeler and lets her know that we wrapped it up at 1 hour and 45 today with a closed session. Maybe I'll do it
Please don't. Please don't.
Good job. Good job. Good job.
Good job, guys.
She is missed. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a great month. And we'll see you again, same time, same place.
All right.
See you next
Take care.
time.
Bye.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Bye.